Hello everybody and welcome to Sin City Living. My name is Jason. I'll be bringing you today's episode. As always, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, and we would like to give our usual shout out to our patrons. We appreciate all the tips and support. Just going to go towards making the channel better, hopefully add some more games in. We're really excited to be able to add roulette in as soon as possible for us. And if you're curious about it, go ahead and check the description of this video. So what are we going over today? Well, today I want to go over something that was asked by a couple of our viewers. And that is to go over positions. Go over the positions so that as a player, you can find your own bets. That's something that we get a lot, actually. I had that last night with quite a few players that were constantly asking what numbers they had, what bets they had, and then a couple of them would actually ask where they were. So first I want to discuss the table a little bit. Obviously I can't show this on camera, plus we don't have a full-fledged table in here with the walls, but the way the table works, it has two sides that are mirrored from each other. This side is what we call third base. This is on, from a dealer's perspective, the left side. Then we have the box sitting right there. That's a supervisor in charge of the table. Then the other side of the table will have this exact layout just on the other side, and the general sweep of it swings the other direction. We look at everything as stick to base or base to stick. And what that means is the dealer that's on stick and the dealer that's on base, depending on which side they are on. Closest to stick is always position 1. Closest to base is always position 8. So therefore, the player that is right there on this side of the table would be position player number 1, while the player that is right over here would be player number 8. Now the table has a turn to it, and that turn is right there in the corner. And if you were to look at the slots on top for the chips, there is there's a break in between two slots right there at the corner. One is kind of under the turn, one is kind of over the turn. Well, the part of the turn on the side of the stick, that is called the bottom hook. At the top is called the top hook. Now, if you were to count the spots for the chips up top, depending on the length of the table, you're going to notice there's either 10 or 12 spots for chips, while we generally will only allow 8 players per side. There are very occasional exceptions to that, depending on the casino and the business, special events, stuff like that. But for the most part, 8 players and 8 players only. So some of the spots kind of double up as far as where they could be. Now those 2 spots at the hook, the bottom and the top hook, those never change. Those are always positions 4 and position 5, period. There are 4 spots on this table that never, ever change. Directly next to stick is spot 1. Directly next to base is spot 8. And then you've got the 2 spots around the hook, bottom hook and top hook, which would be spots 4 and spots 5. Those never, ever change. But when it comes to spots 2 and spots 3, well, you've got three different spots, open spots for chips. So it could be, spot 2 could be those 2, and spot 3 could be those 2. So the middle one could be either spot 2 or 3, depending on really where the player is standing more than anything else and other players that you have. But we use those 4 core spots that never change to tell us the position as far as setting up the bets go. Everything follows the sweep of the table. So on this side of the table, things go this way. The other side of the table, it's going to be opposite. So for us here, position number 1 is right here, because this box for the 6 would follow the sweep of the table. Position 1, because we'll assume that the stick is over there, always. So position 1 would be here, position 8 would be here, and everything else sweeps around. Now those 4 spots that I told you never change, those are key. We've got spot 1, spot 4, spot 5, and spot 6. Or spot 8, I'm sorry, spot 1, spot 4, spot 5, and spot 8. Those never change. The bottom of the hook is always right there. The top of the hook is always right there. And these 2 spots never, ever change. If you're standing right next to the dealer, the base dealer, you're going to be right here. You're going to be, as the table curves around this way, so do the bets curve around this way. So you're going to be right here. If you're kind of in the middle, what we call down the middle, you're either going to be spot 6 or spot 7, depending. And we're going to put you like this. Now, this is assuming that we have 8 players. Let's say we have a full 8 players over here. this would be how the 8 players would be set up. And this is where players start asking, oh, which one am I? Well, you're standing right next to the stick dealer, so your spot is right here in this corner. Does not matter what number, you're going to be on that spot, period. It's not going to change. If you're standing right next to me, you're going to be in this spot right here, this little corner. And that's never going to change. Now, if we don't have a full 8 players, we tend to get a little bit more I'd say relaxed with it, a little bit simpler. In general, the table can start to kind of look a little bit filled up when we have 6 players. We have 6 players, people are already pretty much shoulder to shoulder. When you get above 6 players, people are getting really friendly with each other. You've got a lot of people that are standing sideways. Sometimes you'll have people that are actually standing behind another person while still trying to play. The table, 8 players fitting into these spots, it can get pretty cramped. They're either really friendly with each other, climbing into each other's pockets, or making new friends if they're standing that close to each other. So generally speaking, when we're at kind of a medium busy spot, we'll have between 5 to 6 players. 5 to 6 players per side of the table makes things actually a lot easier. When I'm setting up players, I tend to get a little bit more relaxed with it as long as I only have 5 to 6 players. If I have 3 players below the hook and 3 players above the hook, then instead of going with exact positions, I'm going to switch over to the 9 for this. Instead of going to exact positions of you're in spot 1, you're in spot 2, you're in spot 4, that other person is in spot 6, and then I've got someone in spot 7. What I'm more likely going to do is I'm just going to kind of open it up into 3 spots. I've got next to the stick or closest to the stick, may not even be in position 1. This could be position 2, but if they're the closest player to the stick and we have no other players, I may just put them right there for ease of use. And then I may have the bottom hook, and then I'll just put the other one right in the middle. So I know, okay, I've got the bottom hook, I've got the closest to the stick, bottom hook, and then I've got the guy that's right in the middle of them. It doesn't matter if he's in spot position 3, spot 2, doesn't matter. I'm just going to put him right in the middle. And same thing here. I would more likely take one of these and either move him close to me or move him close to the hook. And the reason for that is if I have 2 players right here and I've got this, well, all it takes is kind of a lazy dealer to throw a bet down for a player and then get tapped off, and the new dealer comes up and goes, is this bet this person's or is it this person's? It's kind of tough to tell. But if I went ahead and did this, now I would know that this bet is this person's. So we may widen things up a little bit just for ease of use. But if we have a full table, now we have to go in tight. In which case now the dealer, when they set this bet up, they better be very careful on whether they're setting up spot 5 or I'm sorry, spot 6 or spot 7. They need to be a little bit more precise with it. But that's how you can tell your spots as far as your place bets go. And the same thing with the come bets. With the come bets, when we travel a come bet, it still goes to the same spot. It just goes inside. So if I had a come bet travel to the 8 and it was player 2, it would go right there. If it was player 6, it would go right there. It's still following the same curve and it's still going to the same positions. It's just inside the numbers. So that's how we can tell, and that's where your bets are set up as far as your place bets go. Generally speaking, a lot of the most experienced players, they tend to have their favorite spots, and they're usually pretty easy spots to set up. Players either really like next to the stick, next to the base, or down the middle. We do have a few players that like a position 2, position 3 spot, but even then they get used to it. They know where their spot is. The ones down the middle, same thing. They tend to know where their spot is. But the ones next to base, they know they're always in the same spot. And then they don't need to ask constantly, where am I, where am I, where am I? Now, what about with the center action? Now, obviously, I can't show the entire center action here, but I can show a few of the bets. We've got our C&Es set up right here. Okay? And this one, since it's coming up and down, it's going to go as far as the stick goes as well. Closest to stick versus furthest from stick or closest to base. So therefore, this bet right here would actually be the one closest to base. This would be position number 8, be closest to base. Whereas farther down at the bottom would be closest to stick. Now, a lot of tables only have 7 C&E spots. I have no idea why. So we do have to play around with it a little bit if we actually have 8 players betting the C&E, but that is extremely rare. I think that's only happened to me twice over the last 3 years. So what about your hardways? Now, hardways get a little bit trickier. As you see, you only have one spot. We're going to use the hard 10 because it's within the camera view. you see that there is only one big box for the hard 10. So how do we put the positions in here? Well, we're going to treat this box as the entire table. So we've got one big box, right? Well, the stick person is standing in the middle of the table, correct? So the stick person is theoretically right here. So we split the table. So we've got, following the flow of the table, we've got closest to stick, 2 from stick, 3 from stick. Now this one doesn't quite hold all 8. Some tables will have, it'll be long enough to hold all 8, so there'll be 4 at the bottom, and then top hook, and then all the way across. Then on the other side of the table, it would switch. Closest to stick, and then coming all the way around. So if you're standing right next to the base dealer and you bet a hard 10, you're right there. If you're standing right next to the stick, you're right there. If you're at the bottom of the hook, you're going to be over there. If you're at the top of the hook, you're going to be right there. Now, if this is one of the ones that if you're not sure about your position and you bet the hard ways a lot, I actually would recommend this for anybody that bets the hard ways really at any time, is when you bet your first hard way, watch where they set it up. If you bet a hard way and they set you up right there, you should not have to ask, hey, what hard ways am I missing? Because you know where you're at. So you can look on all the other hard ways and see if you've got a chip there or not at the exact same spot that your bet is right there. It's even easier if you're on the hook or next to the stick or next to the base. You can just see where you're at. The horn bets and such, those get a little bit trickier because the box is not large enough to hold all the bets, and that's also one spot where the dealers tend to get lazy about setting up positions because we'd usually just memorize who's got what, unless we have a whole bunch of them coming in which case the stick person then tends to let the base dealer memorize who all those bets are. So that's a basic understanding of how positions work. Now, here's the thing: we don't mind when you ask. We really don't mind when in fact, we encourage people to ask. Hey, where am I? Where's my position? Where are you setting up my bets? We encourage people to ask that question. We like it when people ask that question because that means they're paying attention to the game and they want to pay attention to their bets. What we don't like is someone that asks us what position they're in 20 times, or asks us if they've got a hard 6 15 times, and because I guarantee you after the second time you ask me, do I have, what numbers do I have? I'm going to tell you what numbers you have, then I'm going to show you where your position is. And when you ask me 4 or 5 more times, what numbers do I have? Now it's starting to get a little bit old, not because you're nagging us. We don't mind giving you that information, but because we're trying to deal with 8 players and probably about 50 different bets around the table, and we have one person that keeps interrupting our train of thought while we're trying to calculate a payout or actually talk to another player about their bets, asking us, where am I, what do I have, do I have a 6, do I have a 6, do I have a 6? It's distracting, it's breaking up the flow of the game, is breaking up the dealer's ability to do their job smoothly and quickly. So we love it when players ask us what's going on, where their bets are, where their positions are, because it really helps us educate them and it helps us let them know what they're betting. We want players to be able to know exactly what they have, what they don't have, just in case the dealer misses it. If we have a winner and we unmark a point, then we mark the next point, a good dealer is going to tell players, hey, nobody has a 6, that was the last point, but there's also not a good chance, but there's also a chance that we mark the 8, everyone's got their or mark the 9, everyone's got their bets, and I start to go, hey everybody, nobody's got a 6, that was the last point, but before I can, I've got 3 bets that get thrown into the middle that I need to book. Hey, you got a horn high 12, you got a horn high yo, and that person's got a hard 8, and then someone else is like, hey, let me shift a couple of these bets around. So I start dealing with that, and before I get a chance to tell people, hey, you don't have a 6, we're getting ready to move the dice, or I got distracted on it because so many people are asking me different things. So we really encourage people to know where their bets are. And again, don't be afraid to ask. Please ask. We'll be more than happy to show you, to point out exactly where your bets are on the table and where your bets are within every single number, within every single box, just to help you out. And I hope this information helps you guys next time you play. As always, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Feel free to email us with any strategies or questions you may have at sincityliving.lv@gmail.com. And we will catch you guys next time. Thanks.